Alright. It is time. It's finally been released. I'm curious to see how it's gonna go. Alright.
The Stoneborn were not the only ones manipulated and deceived, my friend. I dare say even the Arbiter herself has been made a pawn. The time has come to dethrone our former master. What we do next, we do for the sake of all the Shadowlands.
We must drive them back, my prince.
You are the key to victory, mortals. Go, strike down the one who has betrayed us all.
Look, Remonia. These daring mortals have persevered through every obstacle put before them. It seems we have little choice left but to surrender.
I have a better idea. Let me carve them up instead.
Now there's a thought. We could flay these petulant, small-minded creatures and use their bones to pave the path for our ascension. What to do, what to do.
Please, Master! It's been so long since I cut into living flesh! Let me skewer them, slice them, slash them, vivisect them, cut ribbons from their heads!
Pace yourself, Remonia. Rushing one's work is so unflattering. I shall assist our guests with their atonement. Once they have repented, I will permit you to rend their bodies and send their souls screaming into the maw.
So... yeah. First off, I'm convinced Remonia in a past life was perhaps a serial killer who took, who took a lot of enjoyment in her profession. LFR Denathrius. Okay, we are...
5,
oh, this is gonna be entertaining.
3, 2.
I know this fight, but this is LFR, so let's see how it goes. I'm also very curious how this fight is going to be in LFR compared to what I've been encountering. Oh, feeding time.
Your humans amassed a debt you cannot pay.
Yeah, when I have a chance, I'll try and talk about this fight. Get to this side. Of course, they stayed over there. They're probably gonna die. Unless the LFR damage from that is just really small. Okay. So, what just happened there is that's a cone he shoots out that I'm supposed to hit because we have this, Burden of Sin. He puts this on us the moment we start the fight.
Your vanity will cost you everything.
Now, there's going to be a part if we can get his health down, which it looks like we will, because it's already down to 77%. But here's the issue, is whether or not we're going to have... oh, I got down 2 stacks. If you have more than 2 stacks, you will not be able to actually make it to the middle of the room for the portion of the fight to transition to the next part here. Alright, well, we triggered it. Let's see how many people actually make it.
Crawl to me on...
Now, I could have used Death's Advance for this part right here, but I don't need to because I have 2 stacks, and it's fine.
2, 1.
If they don't make it to the middle, they die. So let's see how many survived. Oh, we already have 3 dead.
From my side.
So that first phase is a DPS check, but you also have to take care to let it go long enough so that everyone can lose at least 2 of their stacks, because, well, if you don't, then it's going to be an issue. So now this phase is a little bit more of a chill phase, because we have to go around and not necessarily deal with Denathrius, but also clear the ads, and a couple of other mechanics. Also, Remornia is over here kind of like a pet that has shared health with Denathrius, but you don't really need to face, face Remornia if you don't want to. Now, what people don't realize is that you can use the mirror to avoid that. They're just going across the room. Gotta get the ads.
I will cut you down.
Okay, yeah, so Remornia does this. It hurts a lot. But fortunately, she's telegraphing it very well.
Scream for me.
Yeah, people are ignoring the ads. Why do we... Should we kill the ads? Because they do this. Crimson Chorus. Shadow damage every 2 seconds. 702. That's when you can tell this is LFR, because that feels very nerfed. And now there's more ads.
I will cut you down.
Now, of course, this is LFR, and as I saw, some people were saying this was their first time here doing this fight, so they've never done the normal version, which, as I've said before, is completely understandable. There's always more than one possible reason why some people just don't get a chance to participate in these raids or fights on normal or higher. Whether it be they don't have a guild, that they haven't been able to get into one, or because they've tried to get into pug groups and such just to try it out, and those groups just won't let them in because they're like, no, you need experience, because they don't want to bother teaching people to fight. They will only take people who are experienced, so therefore those people don't get to have any experience learning the fight. I wonder if we are actually going to one-shot this thing.
Scream for me.
Because this is LFR. Usually you don't expect to one-shot it. But then again, we have a full group here, so... Alright, so now we've gone to the 3rd phase, and this is another DPS check. Because he's going to have that hard enrage like before.
Very well. You shall have it.
So yeah, he does this knockback. If you are there, you could actually get knocked off down there, so you gotta make sure you avoid it. That also happens over there, so you gotta make sure you avoid that. He still casts this, so you gotta make sure that you get out of it, so...
4, 3, 2, 1.
Special premise.
So yeah, this is also when he starts to do that thing we saw in the first phase, where he covers a third of the room. This is the hard enrage, so this is why you gotta make sure you DPS him down in this final phase. Or else, you're basically gonna wipe, so... But he's already down to 16%. This feels so... This feels like a cakewalk compared to what I've been experiencing in normal. Again, this is LFR, so... Right now, I think a lot of players are just going to take whatever they can get, so... Considering how rough this tier has been. Alright, so let's see if it plays the cutscene. Not an actual cutscene, but the dialogue. Okay, so there's dialogue that is supposed to play here. And sometimes, I've only caught it playing once, and it just seems to not play after this, and I don't get why. I really wish it would. So there's supposed to be dialogue here where Mormonia is trying to save Denathrius. And she tries to get away, but then Renathal stops her and is going to come up with a more, I guess you could say, permanent way to imprison Denathrius, because he's stuck inside Remornia right now and can't get out, but that's also because she was trying to save him from dying. So Renathal has a plan, and it has to do with what we did back in the Sanguine Depths, and I will be showing that later. Now, what you didn't see pop up here was that some people got a quest item, which was this, Remornia. Within this handmade blade, a dark presence screams to be released. That triggers a quest. Now, I've actually already gotten that quest and turned it in, because I've already gotten a kill on Denathrius on normal. So, I will be showing that in a separate video, where we see the aftermath of this raid, where we have now defeated Denathrius, which, by the way, now let me actually go ahead and read the thing. For countless ages, Sire Denathrius stood among the Eternal Ones who rule the realms of death. But in the Shadowlands' darkest hour, he has betrayed his sacred duty. With his bloodthirsty living blade Remornia at his side and defended by his most sycophantic loyalists, Denathrius will cut a swath through any who stand against him and cast their remains into the inescapable terror of the Maw. And yeah, as you saw, I heard some people start to compare this fight to the Black Hand fight from Warlords only because of the changing of the floors. But really, that's, you know, it's like, okay, that's one similarity, but not necessarily when it comes to the rest of the fight. But it is kind of a cool fight. You know, the whole idea, like the first phase, you have to get hit by his cone to remove your stacks, because if you don't, you can be able to, you know, not be able to make it to the middle, which if you don't, you die, as you saw from those other people. Hold on. Just wanted to give that warlock a bit of a heads up in regards to what to expect. I know what happens, but yeah, I just want to kind of... No! I'm tempted on what to say here, but I think I'm just going to leave it at that. So yeah. So as I was kind of trying to say, before I got caught up in informing that warlock about what was going on. So yeah, I like that, you know, there's that first phase where it's a DPS check where you have to get hit by the cone to remove your stacks, but by doing so, it spawns ads. So the idea is that if you get down to 2 stacks, you can make it to the middle of the room just fine. Now, there is a way to cheese it on certain classes. Like, if I hit Death's Advance right before that happens, I can just run straight in and ignore the movement and, you know, speed issues. But you have like a second or a split second to activate it, and mine was on cooldown. So I didn't want to do that. So anyways, I'm going to get rid of this. I didn't really care about that. I was just kind of watching, just to see how it was going to go. And oh my gosh, that fight felt so much easier on LFR compared to how I've been dealing with it on normal. But then again, we also had a big group, and you could also tell it was tuned down. And I've also been dealing with other groups that have been trying to struggle with the kind of, you know, amount of people and such in the actual, you know, raid group to take with them, since how many people are there affect the health and all that. And, you know, LFR, of course, has it set up where it's like a certain, you know, amount of DPS and healers and such. So, but then again, as I also said, it's definitely toned and tuned down compared to how it is on normal. And I haven't even experience what that fight is like on heroic. I don't know if I will or not, because, well, let's just say this tier is kind of tiring and exhausting, especially also for someone like myself who has not had that much free time to commit to this like I did back in BFA, where I had much more free time on my hands to do so because of all the stuff going on with COVID and all that. And, like, you know, when you get a job back, and then it's a job that has been asking a lot of hours of you, and, well, you just kind of start to go, man, I can't really, you know, commit to doing the higher level versions of this. I may have to just kind of go back to doing more chill, casual stuff. And yes, I know casual, but whatever. And plus, I haven't even experienced some of the other content in this expansion on alts, you know, because I've been kind of like focusing on this stuff, and there's other stuff going on with, you know, the groups or guilds, communities that I'm involved with or a part of, and yeah. Denathrius is not a bad raid, in my opinion. It's not a great raid. I don't think it's going to be one of my favorites. It kind of depends on how the rest of this expansion goes out and how we look back on it once we get to the end. But this tier has been rough for a lot of people. A lot of people are quitting this game and this expansion during this tier for multiple reasons, one of which is that this new system that, you know, some people are saying they like it because they think it makes it, you know, more rewarding and all that, but it's also becoming extremely frustrating, and for a lot of people to the point where they don't want to play anymore because you do so much and you get so little out of it. And, you know, yesterday I was in that raid all day trying to get certain slots on one of my other characters, and it was such a struggle because, one, it was hard to find groups to be able to like pull off getting the kills, but then also you didn't really get anything from it. You know, there was another day I did the same dungeon multiple times in Mythic Plus trying to get something, and I got nothing out of it. So this whole idea of have less loot drop to give it more of a sense of reward or whatever. They're trying to explain of how it's supposed to be more fulfilling and all that. It's not working, in my opinion. It's causing people to quit and leave and be done. Even like high-level players are just like, it's exhausting for them, and it's frustrating them that they're not able to really do as much or get as much out of it as they want to. It's unfortunate because I really do feel like they were doing some really good stuff here. But then you get to this other endgame stuff where it's like they think less makes it better, but that was stuff that was back in the day. And I'm probably going to get some flack for this, but in my opinion, I think this is Blizz kind of listening to people who have been, forgive me, but clamoring and yelling and screaming and, demanding and all that from Blizz, that the way it used to be, as in vanilla and classic and all that, was better. And they've been saying this for years, and they think this whole idea of let's have less drop somehow makes it better needs to be applied here. Need I remind you, back in the day, if you did Molten Core, and that was a raid where you had 40 people, you would have like 2 pieces of loot drop for 40 people. And there are people to this day that hated that did raid back in the days of vanilla, because it was absurd. It was ridiculous. 2 pieces of loot for 40 people? Just no. There's a reason many people were happy that, 1, they dropped down the amount of people to like 25 and such, and 2, they actually started increasing the amount of loot to actually make it much more fulfilling and able to be viable for progression and help out a group and a guild and all that, instead of just having it do like, these constant like months of all these insane amounts of runs, and where it just wore people out. And times have changed. That was a different era. That was almost now 20 years ago. Times are different now. And it's just something that a lot of people that just love this vanilla era from WoW, and this classic era, that they just can't seem to get by and get past. They refuse to move forward. They refuse to get with the new era, and realize that era is gone and it's never coming back. And this is something I was stressing when Classic was coming out, telling them, if you're trying to recapture what you loved in vanilla with Classic, it's not going to happen, because was a different era. Things are different now. You cannot go back to that era because things have changed, times have changed, tech has changed, knowledge has changed. It was like the wild frontier of MMOs back in the day where nobody knew anything. Now everybody knows everything. And that whole, social community aspect, people have gotten older. They've grown up. Some of these people, they have families now, jobs, and other stuff in real life going on. And this desperation from these people to keep this the way it used to be, when it wasn't even the best way, in my personal opinion. I know plenty of people disagree on that, but this is causing people to stop and leave. And I'm sorry, but if you are starting to, asking for the game to be a certain way, which is causing people to stop playing, you're basically helping, kill the game. This is an MMO. It relies on a player base. If there is not a big enough player base, there is no reason for them to say, all right, let's shut down the servers because no one's playing this game anymore, so let's turn them off. If you want to be this one, select group of people that says we want it done this way, and it causes the game to get shut down because you are now the only ones playing the game, they're not going to keep the servers running for a few select people like that. That's just not going to happen. You have to be able to have it where it's a more welcoming, game for a player base. I know that there's this whole thing about casualization of the game and all that, but if you cause it to be in a way where people are going to leave, there's no reason for them to keep this game running. If you continue to have this game done in a way where it's only for a few select small percentage of people that want it a certain way and it makes everyone else leave, they'd be insane to keep the servers up and running for those few select people because of how much money it costs. And those few select people are not worth that much money. I'm sure that may get taken out of context, but you guys know what I mean. The amount of servers they have up and running for this and how much it costs to keep those servers running, you can't spend that much for a few select people. You can't do that. The money people who would say, are you insane? We're not going to spend that much money for a handful of people playing this game. Shut them down. We'll spend that on servers for a game that lots more people are playing. People are saying, to abandon WoW and go to other MMOs like Final Fantasy. I've even heard people telling them to go to Star Wars The Old Republic. That used to be the opposite back in the day. And now there's, it's flipped. I kid you not. I've been hearing people telling others to go play Star Wars The Old Republic instead of WoW. Because that's how it is in the game right now. It is exhausting people and frustrating them to the point where they don't want to spend their time playing this if they're getting nothing out of it. Now, there's plenty of other different things to do other than just the high-level endgame stuff. I know this as well as anybody. I don't have to be doing this high-level stuff. I could just be doing other stuff. I could go back. I haven't farmed mounts or farmed older content in in weeks since this expansion launched. I've just been doing, current stuff. But it's getting exhausting and tiring. I have no motivation right now, especially with the work hours I've been having with my job, to push to higher level of Denathria. Especially when hardly anything is actually dropping. Now, certain events will come up that will actually help out. Like this week is Emissary of War week, where if you do 4 mythic dungeons, you get a 213 heroic Denathria piece of gear, which is great. That really helps out people. But honestly, it's like right now there's no extra story content. You're just, unlocking your renown to get some extra stuff. So unless you are part of a guild that's actually progressing or a group that's progressing, it really doesn't help that much. It's really not worth it. Because at that point, it's like, okay, just check out some other stuff. Right now, I actually am more interested in switching on over to some of my other alts and checking out some other stuff and leveling them to get to some of their Covenant stuff. And hopefully there's enough catch-up in there so I can be able to actually show you guys the other Covenant stuff. Plus, I haven't really checked it out myself or experienced it myself because I've kind of been holding off for the purpose of the videos. It's funny. The second half of this video has turned into just me kind of talking about the current state of the game and almost a rant against the people who, clamor for the game to go back to the way it was in Vanilla and Classic instead of the way it is now. When really this was about LFR. I thought it was going to be here for... Here's a comparison. Here's the funny part. People talked about how this apparently was a tougher fight than N'Zoth. Now, maybe they're talking about Heroic and Mythic, possibly, but keep in mind, guys, the video I did on LFR, not N'Zoth, that was a 2.5-hour video. Because we had plenty of wipes, because that fight had multiple things to it, where you had to really pay attention and focus. Otherwise, it was an easy wipe. We just one-shot Denathrius in LFR, compared to LFR N'Zoth, which took multiple tries. I'm just saying, put that into context. Now, I'm not necessarily saying that N'Zoth was a better fight than Denathrius. It just feels like Denathrius is a easier and simpler to understand fight than N'Zoth was, because N'Zoth had a number of moving parts that you had to really work on together with a bit more coordination than I think Denathrius requires. We just one-shot him in LFR. That probably should tell you what you need to know. And that was with a group of people who had never done that fight before, because they were saying so in chat. You caught that, right? in the chat earlier when I first started the fight, when I first got in here. Oh, wait, it doesn't go back that far back up. But seriously, when I first got in there, you saw some people, you can even check the video, that were saying this is my first time here. They had never done the fight before. I spent all day, well, not all day, but a few hours trying to get a kill on normal Denathrius with multiple people who apparently had done it before, and we couldn't get him down. And then here I am, I joined an LFR Denathrius group, and we one-shot him. I'm just saying, you know? And of course, all I got from that was anima. Which I know, that's something else I heard a lot of people complaining about in some of the Discord groups I joined, was that they were complaining about how they have gotten multiple kills on bosses in this raid, and they have gotten nothing but anima. And it's only 35 anima per boss kill, which is kind of a joke. There are world quests that do 70 or 100 or even 250 anima, and you're telling me I can only get 35 anima per boss? That's a joke. I get that Blizz is trying to accomplish this whole sense of, you know, having it stay difficult in order to give players a sense of achievement. I'm sorry, but no. You get a sense of achievement if you do something in real life, like, you know, in your job or something. Trying to get a sense of achievement in a video game is delusional. I'm sorry. There has never been a game that has ever given me a sense of achievement, because that's not what I play video games for. If I want a sense of achievement, I'm going to try and do something legit in real life at a job or something, or school. But a video game? That's not what I play video games for. I cannot believe this video basically turned into a real talk thing here. I'm sure that right now there's going to be some people sharing in the comments how much they disagree with me or whatever. Yeah. If you want to do that, that's fine. You know, just keep it civil, or, you know, if you get really, you know, nasty or whatever, you know, I have no problem, you know, blocking people on my channel or in the comments or whatever, you know. But, yeah. I just hope that this whole tier has kind of given, you know, especially if you've been paying attention to what some people have been saying. I mean, there are some people like Preach, who he just talked about how his guild just died. You know, because there are guys that are just like, I need a break, and I don't know when or if I will be coming back to this game. There's plenty of people that are saying that right now. This tier has exhausted players. They're not necessarily saying it's a bad, you know, expansion. Some don't like it, and that's fine. That's understandable. I get it, but man, the fact that I'm hearing that this is actually tiring or exhausting players out to the point where they don't want to play the game anymore. Now, I mean, that's, you know, been an issue for expansions in the past. Don't get me wrong. This is nothing new. This is a very, you know, known thing. But from a business model perspective, to me, the idea of having something set in a way that causes players to stop playing when you rely on your player base to keep the game alive and running. This is why people, you know, keep saying that WoW is a dying game, because they say that the subscriber count is not as high as it used to be. And if the subscriber count goes down, well, then that's going to kill the game. You know? And in some ways, I fully understand that mentality. Like I said, like I was saying earlier, you know, you can't have, you know, players go away. Otherwise, you're basically killing the reason that the game is running. You know? Anyways, this has gone on long enough. The majority of this video has now become me talking instead of about LFR Denathrius. Anyways, this is probably going to be the cutting off point for the story with this character for some time. Who knows? It may be until the next big patch, unless they add something else extra in the story. because, yeah, I'm at that point myself where I'm starting to get a little tired of this high-level endgame stuff. And I'm just going to have to let people know, it's like, look, I need to take a break from this, from these high-level characters, until the next bit. Plus, also, this has been a very rough tier for melee DPS. Like, I know that I'm planning on playing a paladin, but still. Like, I don't have to worry about that with my druid, though, because I don't play feral. But then there are some other classes I'm also interested in just, doing some other stuff with the Covenants just to get, like, the sets and such. But anyways, I may also just take a break from WoW in general. But then again, I've had plenty of time to take a break just simply by the amount of hours I've been working at my job. So, yeah. This is a tier that is starting to wear the player base out, which is funny because the idea was that the content was supposed to be optional where they didn't have to, but yet players still feel like they do have to keep up with it because of how difficult it is. So they say it's optional, and yet it still feels like it's mandatory if you want to keep up with and do the high-level stuff. Okay, I'm cutting it off. Stay tuned.